Well, guys, it's been 700 episodes, 3 years, 8 months, 3.6 million views, and over 500,000 hours of people watching this channel about Cardano. We've all been on this journey together, and now it's time for us to talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Ready? Let's go. If you have a strong intuition that anyone wearing a space helmet on a salt flat probably just deserves whatever they've got coming to them, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Guys, we have done this 700 times, and that's crazy. And we're going to talk about it. But first, look at this beautiful green line here. Look at this beautiful chart. Don't worry, we're not going to do any Fibonacci's. We'll never do Fibonacci's. But look at this beautiful green line. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful? Sure you have if you're around in the last cycle, but we haven't seen this in a long, long time. When this started happening the other night, when things started firing off, when Cardano started doing that thing we've been looking forward to for so long, it just kind of makes everybody happy. The whole mood sort of changes in the ecosystem, not just our ecosystem, but all of crypto, and rightfully so. They say that crypto as an asset class is the best performing asset class in the world, 1 out of every 4 years. Another one out of those every 4 years, it's the worst performing asset class in the world. And then it just kind of goes limp. It goes limp and stagnant and pretty much does nothing good, anyways, for like 2 years. And then you come back around to the good year. So only a fool tries to pretend they know what the future holds. And we don't really know at any particular time in crypto if history is going to repeat itself. But if there is going to be a super fun time in crypto, it's pretty much supposed to be the next year. Again, we don't know what's going to happen, but the next year, good chance this is going to be really fun. Okay, given what may be coming over the next year, we need to have some real talk. And that real talk is where we're going to get into where we've been and where we're going. So, as you know, we are right here. This is the chart for Cardano over its entire existence, at least according to CoinMarketCap. So, according to CMC, this is the history of Cardano. So, here's what we need to talk about. So, what I suspect is that some of you, not all of you, but some percentage of you. I'm not even going to say if it's a majority, if it's a sliver, a small minority. I don't know. Some percentage of you have already screwed this up, and I know you're going to be mad when whatever the peak of this cycle is, whenever that happens, whenever we're up here, but it's this version over here, whenever that comes, you're going to be mad. You're going to be mad because you've already screwed this up. And you already know what I'm about to say because I've said it a million times on this channel. So, the old maxim, buy when there's blood in the streets. It is true nowhere as much as it is in crypto because we have this crazy 4 year cycle. This has been going on. I got into crypto in like 2012, 2013. I think I actually bought Bitcoin for the first time in 2014, but I was watching very intently, very interested prior to that. And it's done the same thing every 4 years. Every 4 years has done exactly the same thing. And the same thing has been true. When things get up here, when things get all frothy and crazy up here, everybody's like, I should have bought more. I should have bought more. I should have bought earlier, all those things. It's been happening every 4 years, forever in crypto, since crypto became a thing. Every 4 years, everybody wishes they bought more. And they're trying to figure out how they can get more cash so they can be buying crypto as it goes up here. You've already screwed up. If that's your game plan, like if your game plan right now is like, how can I get my hands on more ADA? You've already screwed up. I mean, not all the way. I mean, things are going to happen in between now and whatever is the peak here. But this is when there's blood in the streets. I mean, you can see what's going on here. There was blood in the streets. When I first got interested in Cardano, I had already been in crypto for a while. But I became aware of Cardano and became very interested in Cardano over here. But I knew what was going on. I knew this was not the blood in the streets time. This was a time when things get all frothy and prices are high, and I knew they were going to crash, just like it always does in crypto, crash back down. So I didn't buy on the way up here. I bought down here in early 2018. I can't remember if it was like February 2018, but I bought down here when the price was already near a bottom. And then, you know what I did? I just kept DCAing. I just dollar cost averaged. Every time I got a damn paycheck, I bought Cardano. It's very unrewarding. It's very unrewarding because the price doesn't go up. You can see, we already said there's this horrible 2-year period where things are very limp. And here we go from 2018 all the way to the end of 2020. Almost nothing happened. Sure, prices went very, very low. At certain points, you could buy below 3 cents down in here. And I did. And by the time it's over, sure, we're up to 10 cents, which seems crazy because you just, like 3x'd at least. Because I think the lowest I bought was like 2.8 cents or something. But you've already seen a great multiple. But that's nothing in crypto because that fourth year, when all the crazy, frothy FOMO stuff happens, is still coming. Problem is, once you get here and it starts doing this vertical stuff, you've already screwed up. You've already missed out if you did not DCA while there was blood in the streets. You know why most people don't DCA though? The reason why most people know exactly what it is and they know they should be doing it. The reason they don't do it is because of life. They don't do it because of life, because there are a whole bunch of vacations. They can go on those fancy vacations, take pictures of themselves in those exotic locales, post those pictures on Instagram, and that's a nice little dopamine hit. Even if it's not a dopamine hit for them, they've got a significant other who wants those little dopamine hits. They want to take that picture of themselves at the fancy vacation destination, post it on Instagram, boom, chemicals in the brain, good feelings. That is worth more to them than making that DCA. And that's why most people don't DCA. It's not just vacations, it's going to fancy restaurants. Again, dopamine from eating the food, from drinking the expensive wine, from posting the pictures, all those things. They prioritize the dopamine from all those things over accumulating things that they think might help them later on in life. It's vacations, it's fancy restaurants, it's fancy cars, it's living in fancy accommodations, all those things. People prioritize that over accumulating assets that might appreciate in life. Sure, houses can appreciate. There are luxury things you can buy that can appreciate in price, of course, but it's not how it works for most people. For most people, it's pure consumption. And if that's what they prioritize in life, that's totally fine. But for most people, and I told you this was going to be real talk. We don't normally do this on this channel, but I think it's important because I'm going to see the same people who I like, who listen to this channel, watch these videos, the same people who were sad up here and wish they had more ADA are going to be the same people who are sad and wish they had more ADA over here. So I'm telling you now, in November 2024, and this is not advice for anybody. This is just what I tell myself. I'm recounting to you what I told myself during this period and what I told myself during this period. So this is not financial advice for anyone else, but I'm recounting out loud what I say to myself during these periods. And what I say to myself during these horrible crypto winter periods is this. Hey, self, do not buy things you do not want to impress people you do not like. And that seems to solve the whole problem. Once you realize that humans have there's this strong pull, like gravity, to buy things you actually genuinely do not want, to impress people you actually genuinely dislike. Once you realize that that's a fundamental trait of humans in our weird modern materialistic society, suddenly you realize all these things that most people are striving to buy, all these consumptive things, all this consumption they're striving to engage in, suddenly you realize they don't want that. You don't want that. Nobody actually wants that. The problem is they go to work and they see other people doing the consumption stuff, buying the very fancy cars they don't actually want. I mean, sure, you want them. I mean, I wouldn't cry if a magic genie popped up and, gave me, $5 million worth of exotic automobiles out of nothing. That would be fine. But what I don't want to do is trade my time and assets for those cars. Because the cars, for some people, they love driving, whatever. They're really into automotive stuff. Sure, that can be a genuine priority in somebody's life. But for most people, they go to work and there are people at their work who are buying these fancy consumptive things, these expensive types of consumption they're engaging in. There are people at their work or their friends or their family who are doing those things to impress other people that they don't like. So then people go to work or they get around their friends, their family, and they start doing those things to impress the people that they don't like, who are actually only doing the same thing to impress people they don't like. What everybody's forgetting is that nobody's actually paying attention to you. Nobody actually cares. Nobody that you like or dislike really cares what kind of car you have. Sure, it's different if you're like young and you're dating, you're trying to impress potential mates, that can be a different scenario, but generally nobody really cares what vacation you went on. Nobody cares what restaurant you went to on Friday. Usually when they become aware that you did something that to them is high value like that, they are just going to be jealous and dislike you even more, that kind of thing. But nobody really cares. Nobody's like happy for you that you suddenly got a very expensive car. They're usually just like envious and they kind of hate you more because you got the very expensive thing or you got to go on the very expensive vacation. It's like everybody is spending all this money on consumption to impress other people who actually don't care about that person's consumption. Anyways, you can be on that plan during these whole crypto winter periods, or you could be on the I'm going to live like a college student and dollar cost average all my money into whatever asset. I'm not even saying crypto is a good asset or the right asset for you, but certainly there are things in life that you can put your assets into that will make your life better. Whatever those things might be, you should consider maybe doing that instead of doing all the crazy consumptive stuff. If you've already got everything in life that you want and you actually don't care about buying things that will make your life better, if somehow you're so well off already, you don't care about that, all you really want to do is take the person you care about to the restaurant and buy that incredible bottle of wine on a Friday night and have this incredible experience where you eat a delicious steak and drink that wine. That's great too if that's your priority. But what I've seen in crypto is most people, when we get up around these prices, I don't hear people saying, I really wish I would have taken all my ADA and spent it on wine and steaks and vacations and fancy cars and fancy hotels down here. I don't hear people saying that. What I hear them saying is, I wish I had more ADA. I wish I would have saved more ADA. I wish I would have bought more and earlier. I wish I would have bought earlier when the prices were low. That's why I say, if you're right here and you're wishing you had more ADA right now, you've already screwed up. What you need to do is in the next cycle, when there's blood in the streets, when everyone's saying that Cardano is going to zero, when they're all cursing at Charles for some reason, a lot of it in Cardano is like directly aimed at Charles. When everyone is so mad at Charles, when prices are down here in the next cycle, and I'm not saying they'll be here, but the chart seems to go up in crypto and then go back down every 4 years. But when prices are in this crypto winter period down here and everyone's cursing Charles, that's when you should be skipping that fancy bottle of wine and that very delicious steak. You can still eat steak, you just maybe avoid the very, very expensive ones in the restaurant and instead live like a college student, dollar cost average for this whole 2 year period. Do it for this whole 2 year period. Dollar cost average into whatever it is you think will make your life better, and then see what happens. Okay, guys, since we're doing real talk, there's something else we need to discuss. And this is also not financial advice. I'm just recounting how I approached things in the last cycle and how I've approached things this cycle. This is not financial advice for you. If you want financial advice, go talk to a financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice. But here's how I approach things. On August 25th of 2021, I posted this video. This was, I believe, 8 days before the top. The top happened 8 days after this video. This video was all about unclenching your grip on your ADA bags. What I was basically saying is that you should not be greedy and try to call the top. When you get to certain levels, and at this point, for myself, we were at that level, you just need to let go of your bag because there's something that I feel like should not be done. Coming back to our chart here, you can see the thing I'm talking about. The thing I believe should not be done is, for myself anyways, round tripping it. So what I think for myself should not be done is writing ADA all the way to the top and then writing it all the way back down to the bottom. So I posted that video on August 25th, which was like right here-ish, and 8 days later, we're right here, and the gist of the video was, you should get rid of your ADA bags instead of round tripping it. Why? Because ADA doesn't care. Cardano doesn't care whether you have a lot of Cardano or a little bit of Cardano. We all support the Cardano network. If you're listening to these videos, you're probably a big enthusiast of Cardano. At least to some extent, you're an enthusiast of Cardano. We all love Cardano. We're all into the goals. Not all of us, but a lot of us are into the goals of Cardano, the ultimate big picture goals of creating this like level economic playing field for the world. We're all into that. You don't have to own ADA to support that goal. You don't have to keep your bag 24/7, 365. You can sell your bag at whatever point you feel comfortable. Whatever point you're like, hey, that's a good amount of money. I want to keep that money. You can just sell your bag. And guess what? If you want to, you can rebuy down here. You'll have so much more ADA if you sell your bag high, and this is just a definitional thing. If you sell your bag high and then you buy back in low, you'll have so much more ADA. And people do this different ways. Some people say, just trade out a lifestyle token. You want to buy a house or a car or, whatever level it is. You just want to buy, a bicycle. You want to buy a jacket, whatever amount of ADA, you're like, hey, I can buy something cool I want with that, some lifestyle token. When you get to that level that you're like, hey, this is a good amount. I would be happy with this amount. This is fine. You can just unclench your grip on your bag, sell that. And then, hey, if you want to buy back in when there's blood in the streets down here, go ahead and do that. So last time, did I take this advice? No, I did not. I told everybody, unclench your grip. I did the unclench your grip video like right here. Did I unclench my grip? No, I round tripped it. So I started buying ADA back here, DCA'd, and round tripped it. Never sold any of the ADA. Just, like here and there, I made little tiny purchases, very insignificant. But my main DCA bag of ADA, I never spent any of that. When I had to make those little purchases when I wanted to buy something in the Cardano ecosystem, I would buy new ADA. I wouldn't even dip into my main DCA bag. Then when we got down here, I just kept DCAing. I don't believe in doing that. I did it last time because I didn't know what was going to happen. Was it going to go higher? Even though I'd done the unclench your grip video, I was like, it could go higher. And, the amount I had up here, it was great. It was fantastic. Any sane person would have taken that amount. They would have sold their bag, kept that amount. I felt like the future held brighter things even. So I round tripped it all the way down here. If I would have sold up here when I did that video and then rebought down here, I would have even more ADA, way more ADA, way more. So this cycle, again, not financial advice for anybody else, but just me describing my approach to the previous cycle and to this cycle, I am not going to round trip it. When things get up here, my goal, my personal goal, and again, not a goal for you, but my personal goal is to have as much ADA as possible in the future. the way I'm going to do that is exactly what I just described to you. When we get up here, at whatever level is the level that is good enough for me, I'm going to unclench my grip on my ADA bags and rebuy later on. My plan at least will be to rebuy later on. And yes, I will trade out some lifestyle chips. There are certain things, like I said, I've been doing the thing I described, living more like a college student through this period and even through this period, so I could DCA like crazy. I've been DCAing like a madman, which is why I'm working in the fiat mines, the place I do not want to be, deep in the fiat mines, living like a college student, working in the fiat mines so I could DCA as much as possible. And this time, when we get to a certain level, I'm going to unclench my grip on my bags, the thing I did not do last time, trade in some of that for some lifestyle chips. Really, lifestyle chips is the wrong way to say it. Really, what I mean is some things you just kind of have to eventually buy in life, some things you have to acquire, and then I'm going to try to rebuy down here later so that I have even more ADA in the future. That's the plan, at least. So will I be able to make another unclench your grip video so close to the top this time? Not at all. No one can actually call the top, especially not me. So do not count on me giving you some video this close to the top again this time. That's not going to happen. That's why I'm doing the video now. This is way before, I hope, way before the top. I hope the top happens quite a bit down the road. And I'm not going to be able to do another video where I tell you, hey, unclench your grip. You've just got to decide for yourself. Whenever you've had enough, whenever you think it's time for you to sell, again, advice to myself, whenever it's time to sell, that's the time you just unclench your grip. And if you want to be back in, buy back in when there's blood in the streets. Okay, and I know some of you are very, very anxious about how to get out of your bags when the time comes, and you're going to be thinking about exactly how to exit from your Cardano. So there are many, many different levels of sophistication in which you can do this. And over the next period of time, whatever the amount of time is from now until the peak, you're going to see all kinds of videos where people are telling you about all kinds of strategies to exit your bags, about target levels, about DCAing out, about the little old lady strategy. I think that's what Da Vinci Jeremy used to call his strategy, which was basically like a way to sort of DCA out. There's a million different ways to do this. Some people, are just going to eyeball the thing and they're going to go all out at once. Some people are going to mean to go out and they're going to screw it up and, sell down here or even just round trip it by accident. All those things are going to happen. There's going to be all kinds of failures as people try to get out of their bags, all kinds of people doing it wrong. The one thing people are not going to do is call the top. Sure, somebody will, but when you go to the casino, somebody also wins at the slot machines, right? This happens just as a matter of statistics. Somebody right now is saying some number that turns out to be the actual top or close enough to the top that they say, I called the top. But there are also 50 million of those guys making those kind of predictions. And as a matter of course, one of them is going to be correct. And that person will claim that they had some methodology that allowed them to call the top. Really, nobody knows what the top is going to be. So, like I said, just be ready to unclench your grip when you've had enough. Don't try to call the top. So, I won't try to this on this channel. We don't do all those things like give you target levels and all the Fibonacci stuff. There's plenty of Fibonacci guys out there who will try to do that for you. The thing that I want to discuss on this channel is just that there are some very basic fundamental things. The very basic fundamental advice I give to myself is to try to accumulate as much ADA as I can down here when there's blood in the streets. And then up here when there is, we have the exact opposite. When there's zero blood in the streets, when the streets are very pristine, zero blood, this is when I try to not have all my ADA. I try to turn all my ADA into other types of assets. And then when we come back down in here, blood in the streets, buy more ADA. How you do this up in here, how you get out of this, there's going to be tons of Fibonacci videos this year that will give you all kinds of advice. Most of it bad. Most of it bad. But like I said, there will be somebody who will call it right just by chance. So that's the type of discussion we normally do not have on this channel. But the reason we're having it is because I think a lot of people do not realize that this is all priorities and choices. Like we're going to get to the top, and there are going to be a ton of people complaining they wish they had more ADA when we're at the top and the prices are high. Those are going to be some of those people, not all of them, but some of those people are going to be the people who made choices down here when there was blood in the street to drive the nice cars, to drink the fancy wine, to go on the nice vacation. Those are choices. It's okay if you prioritize those things. If you'd rather have those things down here in crypto winter, then that's perfectly fine. That's your choice, but it's a choice. You can either choose that or you can choose to get an amount of ADA you're happy with down here. Either one is fine, but you need to be aware that this is a choice you've made and there are repercussions or benefits to those choices. Okay, so why is it so crazy right now? Why is it so awesome? Why are we seeing this giant green spike? Well, it's really the same as every single cycle. There's a narrative every single cycle. Back in this cycle, back in this peak, it was the ICO. It was 2017, the days of the ICO, when it was still okay to do those kinds of things. Cardano did its ICO, as we've discussed many times on the channel, in Japan. And of course, the typical thing happened after the ICO that seemed to happen in those days. And that was the big narrative of this cycle. Cardano had some things about it. We've discussed those before. There were certain ideas about what Cardano was going to be. That was the narrative of this cycle. In this cycle, it was the launch of smart contracts. It was Goguen. We were going to have smart contracts. We were finally going to see what Cardano could become. When I got into Cardano, we didn't even have staking. It was just a coin. It was just a ledger, a coin, and a couple wallets. We had dataless, and then eventually we had light wallets. That was it. That was all we had. There wasn't even staking. And then we launched the ITN, the incentivized test network for staking. And then we launched staking on mainnet. And then eventually in September 2021 at the Wyoming Cardano Summit, Goguen. We had Goguen. That was going to be the launch of Goguen. And we got smart contracts. It took us a little while. It took us a little while to figure out how to use smart contracts on Cardano, but that didn't stop us. That didn't stop us from having this crazy cycle last time where people forget this, but the price went from under 3 cents to over $3. That's 100x, my friends. Not saying that's ever going to happen again, ever in the future of Cardano, but it was crazy then. Those were good days in Cardano. Under 3 cents to over $3. Cardano performed very, very well in the last cycle on this narrative that was just, hey, we've got smart contracts, which should have been sort of like just the fulfillment of the promise because Cardano was always supposed to be a smart contract platform. But that was the narrative in that cycle. The narrative this cycle is a little bit different. We've got a couple different things going on. We've got the launch of Midnight. We've talked about that. I think we should be getting the details, more details on that very, very soon. There'll be a lot more to talk about with Midnight. The big thing, obviously, is Bitcoin OS, which we've discussed on this channel. The idea that Cardano might, in some ways, because of the ZK bridge, the Grail bridge that Bitcoin OS has put in place since they figured out how to validate zero knowledge proofs on the Bitcoin base layer, the idea is that the Grail bridge could turn Cardano into a smart contract layer for Bitcoin and all of its gigantic, amazing amount of assets. So this is not a ridiculous narrative. This is not a bad narrative. And this isn't like having smart contracts was kind of just like the fulfillment of the prophecy last time. We all knew that Cardano was going to have smart contracts. It was going to have staking and smart contracts. And we got staking and we launched smart contracts, by the summit and off to the races we went. This time it's something new. I don't think a lot of people, until Bitcoin OS popped up, not a lot of people were predicting that that was going to happen specifically for Cardano, and then we'd have this really interesting nexus in that we're UTXO and Bitcoin is UTXO as well. So this is kind of this is a very solid narrative for this cycle. And like I said, I'm not trying to be dismissive or pejorative by describing it as a narrative. I think this is an actual legitimate innovation in the blockchain space. The Grail bridge in Bitcoin OS and what appears to be happening between Cardano and Bitcoin. This is like legitimate innovation. But at the same time, there's always a narrative. This one is just a little bit more interesting than normal. This isn't like just a scheduled upgrade in Cardano. We've got those going on too. We've got Ouroboros Paris and Ouroboros Laos coming. That's going to be the eventual launch of what we used to call input endorsers, which is going to bring scaling to Cardano like nobody's ever seen in the crypto space. Apparently, we've talked about this many times on the channel. That's going to be fantastic. Is it going to happen in time for this cycle? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get those things this cycle. So those are going to be great narratives, maybe for the next cycle. Maybe they'll happen like, I don't know if they're going to happen too early for the next cycle, but probably those are things for the next cycle. This cycle, it looks like it's going to be Bitcoin OS and Midnight and the other little upgrades and things we've got going on in Cardano. And there are a lot. Like Cardano is one of those blockchains that always has technological innovation actually going on. We have like a crazy number of very talented builders building things either as part of IOG or part of other organizations. There's a lot of actual development going on in Cardano. So I'm not trying to give short shrift to the amount of development in Cardano. There's a ton. I used to cover it on the channel all the time. I would just cover the number of commits in the IOG repos for the Cardano code. It was amazing how much more code IOG was producing for Cardano than was being produced total in the other blockchains. It was insane. It's always been that way in Cardano. So I'm not giving short shrift to all the development going on in Cardano. I'm just saying there's always a big narrative every single cycle. And it appears the narrative this time is going to be Midnight, which I think is a good narrative. That was looking like it was going to be the big one we were going to have going on. But then Bitcoin OS came out of nowhere. But at the same time, we also know that everything I just described is just around the narrative that's internal to Cardano. There's something much bigger that corresponds with this gigantic green spike. If you look at the date here, November 5th, November 5th, we're all the way at the bottom here. And then what happened? Of course, the election. We're off to the races. Why? Because the incoming administration had promised to be basically the most pro crypto administration we've ever had. In fact, the only administration that was really pro crypto at all. And this one promised to be ultra pro crypto. And the appointments to the cabinet in this administration have proved to be exactly that, the most pro crypto possible appointments we could have gotten in any circumstances. That's probably the biggest driver right now, honestly, and that's a driver across all of crypto, which makes sense. We see Bitcoin approaching 100,000, a price of 100,000, which was like this white whale we used to talk about back in the day. Back in the day when I got into crypto, that 2013, 2014 period, people used to joke about $100,000 Bitcoin. We're approaching that. That's something we're touching right now. And of course, a lot of that has to do with this incoming administration. That's the big driver, which is great. It's good and bad because it doesn't apply particularly specifically to Cardano, but because it's an overall crypto thing, it's also not something that Cardano could screw up. The new administration could screw things up. They could turn out not to be as great for Cardano as we think they are. For some weird reason, something could happen, something could go wrong, something could spoil. Anything like that could happen, but largely there's nothing we can do in Cardano to screw up the fact that we've got the most pro crypto White House we could ever have dreamed of. So basically, what I'm saying is that there seems to be a sort of perfect storm coming for crypto. We're in this last year of our 4-year crypto cycle. The dream, as far as crypto goes, I mean, you can fault them in whatever other ways you want, but as far as crypto goes, we kind of have this dream administration coming in who's making all these dream appointments of all these pro crypto people. It's the exact opposite, like a day and night comparison from the last administration that was hell bent on oppressing and trying to break crypto. Now we've got the super pro crypto people coming into power, and things like this are happening. Look at this: Gary Gensler announcing he will step down January 20th. Why is he stepping down? Because if not, he would be fired. He would definitely be fired by the new administration. He'd be one of the first firings, probably not the first, because they've got a lot of enemies. They've got a lot of other enemies, but he would be one of the first to be fired by the new administration. So, of course, he's stepping down because if he tried to step down one day later, he would be fired. But a lot of great things happening for crypto over the next year. Seems like a perfect storm kind of situation for crypto and for Cardano with Midnight and Bitcoin OS and all these other things happening. That brings us to the next point. That other thing is this thread basically. So, this is a thread where people were basically letting me know that they want me to get out of the fiat mines and go back to making the videos full time. And people said some very, very nice things in this thread. Everybody was far too kind. I massively, massively appreciate the sentiments everybody expressed in this thread. Some of them very, very funny, but I really, truly, massively appreciate it. It was very nice what people said in this thread. However, I'm just like you guys. Pretty much not all of us, but most of us, we have fiat mining going on. I would far, far prefer to leave the fiat mines right now and just start making videos every single day. Probably what I would do, the perfect lifestyle would be if I could just kick out a little video every time a topic comes up in Cardano. Instead of kicking out a giant video every day, just kick out a bunch of little tiny videos where I comment on every single little thing going on. I would love to do that every day. And then do, some interviews, start interviewing people inside Cardano and sometimes do longer videos, whatever, but just make a ton of Cardano videos. Especially right now. This is when things start getting fun. Things get super exciting for like the next year. This is the fun time. I would love to not go back to the fiat mines starting right now and just do that. I can't. I can't. I have to. I'm still deep in the fiat mines, guys. I'm trying to claw my way out of there. Trying to claw my way out, but I can't do it yet. We're too far from the time when we all get to cash in the old ADA. I'm too far from that time. I can't quite claw my way out of the fiat mines. I want to, though. I want to. The perfect lifestyle for me would be doing exactly what you're all suggesting here. Go back to making the full-time videos. And I'd probably do it, like I said, just make a whole bunch of small videos where I comment on every single little thing that comes up. I would love to do that. I just can't. I'm too deep in the fiat mines right now. I can't quite claw myself out of there yet. But I promise you, no one wants that more than I do. So I appreciate this thread very much. I can't quite claw my way out yet. I'm still too deep in there. So obviously a lot of what we've already talked about has had to do with the Cardano markets, the ADA markets. But we did say we're going to talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So we also have to talk about the rest of Cardano. I would argue, and you would guess my opinion on this based on what I've covered in 700 videos on this channel, is that the price of ADA is not the most important thing in Cardano. What is the most important thing in Cardano is what we're actually doing in the real world. And sometimes that'll be reflected in the price. Eventually, it's always reflected in the price. But sometimes the rest of the world won't understand what we're doing, and they might not be building into the price. The markets might not build into the price of ADA what we're actually accomplishing. So who knows if that'll be the case in the future. Right now, the markets seem to appreciate us. And part of that is because we've done so much. We've already accomplished so much, and Cardano has made the right kinds of decisions. We didn't do the stupid short-term decisions. And you could argue we've suffered in the past. The price of ADA has suffered in the past because we didn't do the stupid short-term things like burn coins, We didn't do any of those stupid short-term things that would have temporarily jacked up the price. Instead, a gigantic amount of time and resources were spent by entities like IOG and our buddy Charles here. Huge amount of money, time, and resources was spent on doing the right stuff that maybe wouldn't produce a short-term effect, but was definitely the right decision long term. And now we're seeing that manifest in things like this new Bitcoin OS development. Cardano could have more easily been built out as an account balance network that looked a lot like Ethereum. That would have been easy. Charles was one of the founders, I'm gonna put that in air quotes. He's one of the founders of Ethereum, even though he doesn't like to be called that. He was there at the very beginning of Ethereum. It would have been easy for him to build out an Ethereum clone, just like everybody else did. Almost everybody else just built an Ethereum clone. Why? Because it was easy, short-term way to create some value in the short term. Instead, he did the harder long-term thing. And if Cardano hadn't made those harder decisions, done those harder things, like being an EUTXO smart contract platform, this whole Bitcoin thing wouldn't be happening right now. The we wouldn't be the primary chain that is being considered as the smart contract platform for Bitcoin if we hadn't done all this the hard way. So what comes next is more hard work, actually, but it's going to be very interesting. One of those things is governance. First, we'll cover the governance of Cardano. You all know that's coming. We've covered it quite a bit on this channel, but we're about to have a constitutional convention, and then we're going to have a constitution, and then Voltaire launches for real full scale. Voltaire is going to launch the DReps and the SPOs, and the Constitutional Committee will be running all of Cardano. It will no longer be an IOG thing, just IOG and the CF and Emergo as the founding entities running Cardano. It will be all of us, the community, and it's going to be super messy and hard. And I think we're going to have to be a little nicer to each other. We're going to have to be a little easier on each other. I think if everybody just remembers that reasonable people can have different opinions of how to do things. And there might be totally different reasonable opinions. There might be totally different reasonable paths that Cardano should go down. What is actually going to happen is people are going to get really mad at each other. It's going to be super messy, and a lot of emotions and egos and all those kinds of things are going to be involved. That's inevitable. But probably we'd be better off if everybody would just took it a little easy on each other. Just take it a little easy on each other, and remember that there are different reasonable paths that Cardano could go down, and there are going to be some people who agree with which path we should go down with you, and there are going to be people who disagree with you. And it's okay. They might both be reasonable paths. Maybe one of them, at the outset, they both seem like reasonable paths. Maybe one turns out to be vastly better than the other. And it's going to be hard to tell at first. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. A lot of people are going to make mistakes. And the whole ecosystem as a whole is going to make big mistakes. We'll go down the wrong path for sure. It's inevitable. So we should all just kind of take it easy on each other when it comes to the internal governance of Cardano. It's going to be interesting, though. How do we know that mistakes are made in governance, that governments, just sort of writ large, broadly, governments make mistakes? Because the US government just made mistake after mistake after mistake with crypto for 4 years. The US government went down absolutely the wrong path with crypto. If you're watching this video, you probably agree with that. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing watching this video, but the US government has proven that governments often just make the wrong mistake. And then, in the case of the US government, often 4 years later, everyone realizes it and different decisions are made. A different set of preferences express themselves that obviously just happened in the US. And things are going to be very different for crypto going forward, at least for the next 4 years. In fact, things have never looked so good for crypto. We've prior to this previous 4 years, we've really never received that much attention directly from the executive branch. Sure, they kind of knew crypto was around, and they either, weren't really crazy about crypto or just totally didn't care about crypto. Over the last 4 years, the executive branch definitely was on a mission to try to destroy crypto as much as they possibly could. And over the next 4 years, we've got an administration that's obviously going to embrace crypto. So things have never looked better for crypto as far as their relationship with the US government. Obviously, the US government is not the only government in the world. There are many other regulatory authorities in the world who can have a great effect on crypto, but the US is definitely one of them. And this time around, it looks like not only is crypto going to be, or at least the interests of crypto will be represented in the administration over the next 4 years. Even Cardano specifically looks like it'd be too strong a word to say we'll have a seat at the table, but Cardano definitely is making some connections to the incoming administration. Charles, very obviously at a very high level, very publicly supported RFK Jr. RFK Jr., of course, gave up his campaign, sort of joined the Trump campaign, and now he's going to be over some health and human services things, but he's kind of a part broadly of the administration. And here we see Charles is already sitting down with other people in the US government who are going to be at least allied with the incoming administration. Here we see him with Senator Tim Scott, and Senator Tim Scott, not unfamiliar with crypto. And here we see Charles. Obviously, it looks like they've just sat down to a nice dinner. And what did they talk about over the course of this dinner? Who knows, but probably crypto. They probably talked all about crypto because everyone can tell. Everyone can tell that crypto is going to be a policy item in governance going forward, and especially over the next 4 years. It was one of the big policy moves of this administration to embrace crypto. Perfect timing because Cardano is in wolf mode right now. We're in wolf mode. We know we've already built out something wonderful. I'm saying we, as in the whole Cardano community, have something wonderful going. And if we play our cards right, not just with this government, but just sort of generally, if we play our cards right over the next 4 years, it's going to be a good 4 year period for Cardano. It's going to be a good 4 year period for crypto generally. I am going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think the future has ever looked brighter for crypto or for Cardano. And I'm saying that having made over 700 of these Cardano rumor rundowns. It's always sort of amazed me that anybody watches these videos at all. So it's even more amazing to me that people are still watching these videos after 700 of them. So I want to thank everybody who watches these videos from the very, very bottom of my heart. It really means a lot to me that people actually watch these videos and they care about the same things that I care about in Cardano. It's really been kind of amazing to me that people have kept watching over the last 3.5 years. I really appreciate it. And I also know it's not really about anything I'm doing. It's more just this thing that we're all a part of. This Cardano thing is so interesting. And I think there are a lot of people in crypto who are just sort of the number goes up crowd. Cardano is just another speculative asset they can speculate on. It's just a little casino where they can get that dopamine hit and maybe make some money at the end of the day. And I think that's a lot. Really, that's not the people who watch these videos. I think the people who watch the Fibonacci content creators, there's probably a lot more of the number goes up dopamine crowd who watch those videos. I know everybody watches those occasionally because it's fun and dopamine, but I think the people who watch these videos are the people who are sort of the people who find Cardano to be intellectually interesting, who have an intellectual curiosity about some of the themes that we're all exploring together in Cardano. These themes about maybe creating a better economic system for the whole world, something that maybe embraces Austrian economics a little bit more. Maybe we can just make something better, something that serves the world better than what we've got going on now. None of that's certain. We don't know if any of that's true, if a better system can be made or not. But I really appreciate that there are sort of fellow travelers on this road, that we're all sort of on this little journey together to find out if it's possible, if it's even possible to make something better. So I really appreciate all of you who've been on this little trip with me. And I hope it doesn't end. I hope it keeps going. And eventually we do get to that destination where we make something better. And it seems that we're onto something. We have whole nation states now who are not just embracing crypto, but sort of making crypto the centerpiece of their own economic system. Of course, El Salvador was the first example of that. But we've got a lot of other nation states that seem to be inching closer and closer to that every single year. So hopefully this trend continues. Hopefully we're actually doing something that will improve the world. Of course, I hope all of us make a little bit of money on the way. I don't think any of us would be mad if we made a little money, but I also think it's great that people are interested in this other thing we're trying to do in crypto. So hopefully we eventually achieve that mission. But I hope you're looking forward to the next few years as much as I am, and I'll talk to you soon.